Hello to you and welcome to track 2 of CoinMarketCap's The Capital Conference, the cool track. Today we're going to be talking about play-to-earn games in this first panel, going around the world to see what the latest trends are. So I've got 2 great guests joining me here. We've got Aleksander Leonard Larsen. He's the co-founder and COO of Axie Infinity, and Abhishek Anand. He is the business head of IndiGG, and I am Connor Sephton. I am a journalist who works for CoinMarketCap, and I host their daily podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, how dare you? So, gentlemen, pleasure to see you both. Would you like to start by introducing yourselves in about 30 seconds if you can? Should we start with you, Abhishek?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Really good to be here. I'm Abhishek. I lead business at IndiGG, which is a guild. It's a sub-DAO YGG backed by Polygon. I come from a background in SaaS. I've spent most part of my time building a bootstrap SaaS business from scratch. Working in the initial days of working on the 0 to 1 stages, identifying product market fit, which is where I see a lot of similarities between the bootstrap SaaS business that I worked at and in crypto, because crypto is also in the very nascent stage of its business market fit and product market fit. And yeah, as time would have it, I eventually saw my calling in crypto, and I'm with IndiGG now.
Fantastic. Great to meet you. Great to have you here. And Aleksander, what about you?
Yeah. Hi, Connor. I'm Aleksander, one of the co-founders of Sky Mavis and Axie Infinity. I lead all the business stuff. I also work on the community side. I do a lot of different things when it's required. I'm the one who raised all the money that we did, and yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, before Axie, I was also working in the gaming industry for a couple of years.
Fantastic. So just a reminder, by the way, if you're watching and you would like to send in a question, please do so, and I will ask them at the end of this panel. But Aleksander, got to start with you, because of course the Ronin network was subject to this very big hack not too long ago, and there will be Axie Infinity players potentially in the audience who were affected. What's your message to them, and have you got any updates on what's been going on since?
Yeah, so since the Ronin incident, what we have been working on is making sure that no players are actually affected. So we recovered, well, we didn't recover the funds, but we raised more funds, and we used our own funds to refill the bridge. It should be up very soon. We're going through some very final audits on that bridge contract, which then should restore things to normal. So I would say just hang in there for a little bit longer, and then things will normalize. Of course, things will never be the same after such an incident, but overall the team is in a much stronger position, I would say, from an operational standpoint, right? So our focus right now is moving into a zero trust, building a zero trust organization where we basically have to assume that anyone can get compromised at any time. And I think given our learnings, hopefully there is a lot to learn also for the broader crypto industry, right? Because it's naive to think that basically North Korea is not here and basically looking at every single project in the space right now. So yeah, definitely focus on security all across the border at the moment.
Yeah, you make a good point, because CZ in the opening speech was saying how an incident that affects one crypto company ends up affecting many, because what ends up happening is it has an overspill effect. Now, while I'm just talking to you, I'll come to you in a moment, Abhishek, but Aleksander, play-to-earn games have been traditionally popular in Southeast Asia, places like the Philippines. Is still most of the activity in Southeast Asia, or are things starting to go a bit more global now?
Yeah, so what I would say regarding, I guess, the terminology in terms of what is play to earn, the way that we see it, play to earn just means that you have the ability to earn some tokens inside these type of games. And the better you generally are, the more you can potentially earn. I think what we're trying to do now is actually change the terminology a little bit, because it needs to become clear that this industry is still being built. To actually have a game where literally everyone can earn just by spending their time, you need to have a very solid economy. I don't think we're quite there yet. So what I think is that the play and earn industry, right, is going to be quite different from what we've seen in the past, and that also means that we might see new markets entering. Now that said, even if you are saying that the future is basically play and earn, potentially where not everyone can earn as much as they usually did, you will still find that earning something is much better than nothing in playing normal games, right? So maybe in normal games 0.001% can earn something through being a professional gamers, and in mobile games most gamers are not. Most games don't even have any professional tier, so it's basically only value extraction from the player base. But with these type of new blockchain type of NFT games, I actually think that maybe 20% of the entire user base will be able to make a living inside these games, which to me is a massive improvement. And if we can make those assumptions so early in the industry, I think it's not only going to be Southeast Asia, for example, and these countries where even a couple of dollars every day is massive. You will see this type of game go global because when it's more focused, I think around the 20% who might be able to earn more, you will see bigger prizes as well when it's related to skilled gameplay.
And Abhishek, IndiGG is working to build a play-to-earn hub in India. What's the play-to-earn industry like where you are? And have India's recent crypto taxes that have been introduced, have they been affecting activity at all?
Yeah. So India is a very nascent market when it comes to play-to-earn. In terms of when you compare the Indian market, both from a demand and supply side perspective with other markets like Philippines, with other markets like SEA, purely from a NFT gaming angle, India, I think, is still in the very nascent stages. But that's where guilds come in. I think the problem that happens with a lot of early stage games, and which is, I think, bound to happen in any industry, which is a very new industry. Most games have gone through an acute hyperinflation problem. Now, what happens is it sort of changes the perspective of a lot of early stage players who want to play the game, but eventually when they get wrecked, when they get dumped on, they don't really have a great experience. So I think guilds come in as a great aggregator of sort of assets and players. What we do is we are able to come in and we are able to protect the players and safeguard the players by buying assets in bulk and rent it out to them and tell our players that, hey, your first experience in crypto does not have to be you directly going and buying an asset without really understanding the economy, without really understanding what is happening. You can come to us, you can come to our guild, and we can offer these assets to you at zero cost. And in return, we take very negligible earning. So that is one thing. But more importantly, what you see is, I think you also saw guilds back in the days, in the likes of RuneScape, in the likes of World of Warcraft. But the problem is these guilds, when they create so much of value. So, the guilds at World of Warcraft created a lot of value for Blizzard Entertainment, right? By strengthening the network effect, by aggregating players, but in return, they captured zero value, like Aleksander mentioned. I think with Web3 guilds, you're able to not just create massive value, but you're also able to capture the value back, and you're able to redistribute that value back to the community who spend time, effort, and energy to strengthen the network effect of the game. So that's what is happening, in the very early stages in India. We are a very, very large market with more than 400 million users. India is the second largest market in gaming after China. Being able to, onboard these users is a huge task. It's a massive task, and we're taking one step at a time to sort of get closer to that goal.
Yeah. So, have you got any examples of where play-to-earn games have transformed someone's life? I mean, we were talking just a moment ago, weren't we, about how some people are able to potentially earn more through play-to-earn games than they may do in their conventional careers. I know Aleksander was just saying that the dynamics there are starting to shift. We might not see that as often. Have either of you got any kind of like use cases of people who've, made a really successful career from playing these games?
Yes, of course. So I think what Aleksander mentioned is the social contract has to change. from play to earn to play and earn. But even when you have a more budding play and earn economy, you will still have top 15, 20, 25% of the players sort of making a significant amount of earnings by being a top player who purely sort of level up within the game on the basis of skill and add value to the network effect of the game. So we have multiple people within our community, and we created a scholar story, very, very similar to the Axie scholar story and the Axie story that was sort of covered by Emphasis back in the day, which was the ignition point for play-to-earn gaming globally. So we've created multiple stories ourselves of players who, there are instances and stories of guys who wanted to start as a delivery guy, but guys who've always been a gamer but have never been exposed to ownership or earning. Them spending time, really bringing their best to a game and earning a large portion of the earnings back in the form of tokens. So, and these players are now hardcore professional gamers who are associated with guilds, and they're able to find multiple jobs within the DAO and within the guild ecosystem. As manager, they are now training other folks. So there are multiple stories that I can narrate of people whose lives have transformed. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think over the next 2 to 3 years, we will see multiple such stories of top 15, 20, 25% of people, with a dynamic shift from 0.01% of players earning money through games to now 10, 15, 20% of players, top players of every game, of the best games now, probably playing games professionally.
Mm-hmm. And Aleksander, I hope you can hear me. I can't see your camera at the moment, but we have seen Axie Infinity become one of the big names in play-to-earn games, which of course you're now saying really should start to be referred to as play and earn games. Can you just tell us a bit more about that distinction, and what are the big trends we should be watching out for? What are the things that are going to be changing in this industry in the years to come?
Yeah, my internet is a little bit spotty here. I'm actually in Vietnam with the Axie Infinity team, so calling in from a hotel here. So when it comes to play and earn, I think it's as Abhishek mentioned, right? We're trying to change the social contract here a little bit, so tamper expectations, right? So that people who come in, they come and look for the game first, right? They need to, like, basically, if these things are going to succeed in the long term, people have to assume that they are entertainment platforms or games more than basically just places where they can extract value. And I think historically we've seen that people love playing games, so this is not a strange thing to say at all, in my opinion. And I think we have to. The only way to do that is to create better products which don't rely too much on these very, I would say, growth-focused type of token emissions. Now, that might seem weird coming from the guys who made it, but actually, in our case, it was an experiment. So it's hard to foresee when you're experimenting, what kind of implications this can have for the broader industry, because we see so many people copying the initial kind of SLP model, and you can basically do this with many type of products. And what happens there in the end is that if you don't have new people coming in, it doesn't really work for the long term. So what you're going to have to see more of is more sustainable economies, and basically what I think is fine to bootstrap initial network effects by using some light token economy like issuance. But at the same time, you have to make sustainable economies, or you have to make solid brands or solid games that people can fall in love with, which matter more than just a very short growth cycle.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to expand on that, actually, because we've seen a big backlash from some gamers when it comes to games that include NFTs in particular. And there's criticism that NFTs, they think, suck the fun out of games because it makes it all about money. Do you guys agree with this criticism? What do you think? Start with you, Aleksander.
Yeah, no, for me, I always found it more fun to play games that are real. Like, okay. I loved, for example, like when Diablo 3, when they had the real money auction house, I think the RuneScape economy was very interesting. I was always into digital type of items even before they had massive amounts of value. So to me, it just means that I can actually justify spending a lot of my time inside these games. And whenever I was even playing normal, like non-blockchain or where you couldn't earn something, I always wanted to be the best so that I could actually, get something back for the time that I put into it. But in my case, I assume that I'm more of a kind of an elite type of gamer, which really I kind of double down into specific things. So that matters a lot to me, for example. And I think for other people who are just casual gamers, like actually, I don't think that they should even focus too much on the earning aspect. The only thing that earning actually makes, and for many of these economies, is that they are more like the games will be more vibrant because there will be more players in there and they will be more competitive. But it's all about the initial design of these games so that they can actually work, where people can just come in, play for fun, they can, and then spend some money and then just kind of, move on from there. But if they want to go deeper, that's when the ability to earn is. I think that's kind of the future for many of these games.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Abhishek? Do you think that these gamers who criticize NFTs, do you think they've got a point?
Yeah, I think a lot of gamers who compare NFT games with the other traditional games, I think comparison is wrong because some 50 years have gone into building the traditional gaming industry where it stands today, and NFT gaming is in its very nascent sort of product market fit stages. So we understand the apprehension that gamers have because when you create open economies, you tend to have different people sort of entering the economy and speculating on the economy. The result of that is, as a player, your experience eventually gets tied when you have investment into the economy. I think being able to set those narratives and set those expectations for players, and being able to, spend a lot of time educating players, making them explain what is happening, making them explain the benefits of property rights and human rights, which gamers have never had in the previous generation of games, right? So creating those expectation layers, I think it's very important. I think bridging the gap and bridging the education gap plays a critical role. So as a guild, I think we are constantly spending time creating education sessions, onboarding these users, and once we are able to have 100,000 users, 500,000 users, 1 million users who know why Web3 games are important, why they are a Renaissance movement, right? Then naturally, for a lot of these AAA games to very gradually transitioning to Web3 sort of model will become easier because now they'll have large set of users, who are willing to shift to a Web3 game rather than spending their time, effort, and money in a Web2 game and not capturing anything in return. So I think it's just a matter of time. We are seeing a lot of games. I think even Axie being a pioneer, I think with the land model sort of launching, I think it becomes a much more entertaining gameplay. And we are seeing a lot of other AAA, guys from the likes of Riot and Ubisoft who are building in Web3 because Web3 now also offers better monetization models for studios and for developers. And it's a very positive sum game for both. So I think it's just a matter of time before people start realizing what is happening. No industry in its nascent stages gets accepted. There's something wrong with the industry if it gets no criticism. And I think we are going through the same phase. We will eventually see through very collective education campaigns and through very collective mechanisms for these users to eventually get onboarded to Web3.
Mm-hmm. And just a reminder, if you've got a question for Abhishek or Aleksander, do let us know and I'll make sure that I read them out. We've got about 10 minutes left on this session. But continuing with this conversation, I think that one interesting thing is that many gamers have been upset when NFTs have tried to be added into existing games. So you had Zynga recently, which said that, and they make Words with Friends, and they said, we're going to start exploring NFTs and blockchain, but if we use this, we're going to build a new game. We're not going to try and put it into the games that people already know and people already play a lot. So I guess my question now is, Aleksander, what steps does the play and earn industry need to take to, calm gamers down in a way, like make them feel a bit more comfortable with NFTs and tackle some of this criticism and this bad feeling surrounding the space?
I think the only thing that we can do is ship good products, that actually highlights the real benefits of blockchain technology. And when I'm talking about that, I mean, yes, the fact that you can actually own your game items in a new way and to me, that's an incredibly important value proposition. Like, I keep mentioning this example, but I'll say it here as well. So my background is from a competitive gaming perspective. So I represented Norway in a couple of games when I was younger. I'm 35 now, so maybe 15 years ago, I played online Warcraft 3. And it was amazing. It had a lot of feelings for me. Like, I emotionally connected with that, and I had pride in the fact that I was so good in that game. Now, when I'm looking back at it, like, I have no proof of that. Like, maybe if I'm Googling my nickname online, I can find like my random name on a Russian web page where, some guys have been reporting it, like some very old journalist. But it's not really tangible proof. But, imagine if Blizzard had actually issued NFTs as achievement badges, for example, for those people who did those massive like feats inside those games. Like, that would have insanely would be very strong from an emotional perspective only. It's not all about the value that you can sell it for. So people are oftentimes confusing NFTs about that it's just like a flipper game. It's much more about building your digital identity, like making sure that your footprint, like as you go through different type of games, like you are building that over time, and that can, prove to other people that you've actually done what you say you've done. So in this world where everything is fake, blockchain and NFTs, they are the real thing. And I think people will come to realize that in the next coming years. And like Axie Infinity, that's of course what we're trying to do in terms of achievements. And I think a lot of people are missing the boat here in terms of, they might say that, oh, it's all about interoperability between all sorts of multiple games and you're making them multiverse, megaverse, or whatever you want to call it. The point is, it's a little bit too early for that. Like, I'm living in the real world today, and I'm looking at what can we actually do this year, next year, the next 3 years. Like the multi-mega omniverse, it's coming. Like, it's going to happen, but we have to be patient, and the technology has to get there too. So, that I think is actually when like in the coming years, when people see good products being shipped and people see NFTs actually working as, being more than just a speculative asset that can be flipped, like that's really when people are going to understand that, this is not a value detractor, it's actually a value add. And that's, basically everything that we're trying to do here.
That was very passionately, eloquently argued. I thought that was a brilliant point. Abhishek, have you got anything to add there?
I think Aleksander covered most of it. I think you just need to create games. You just need to create games that are entertaining. That's it, period. You create games that are entertaining, that gamers really enjoy playing, and you give them ownership of their assets. There is no reason for them to continue playing Web2 games. I think you just need one person, or you need one sort of game to sort of bridge that gap and sort of capture the masses. I think when that happens, it will have a roaring effect on the rest of the industry.
Yes, and we'll be coming to some questions from you guys watching wherever you are in a moment, but just one more question from me. And we mentioned before, didn't we, that there are a number of major gaming companies that are now looking into this space, including Ubisoft and Electronic Arts. My question now is, and we'll start with you, Aleksander, is there a worry that the arrival of Ubisoft and EA, these big brands, is there a worry that their arrival will eat into the market share of current platforms like Axie Infinity?
I'm actually not worried about it, because I think, we're speaking to many of these guys, actually. We're talking to them to see, or they are coming to us, actually. I'm not going to say names, but, a lot of these big guys, they want to learn what everything is about. Like, can they use it inside their games in some capacity? But the truth is that you can't really just do a little bit. You have to kind of go all in on this. And that means kind of betting the farm, and in relation to when I'm talking about intellectual property for some of these games. So what you're actually doing is you're sharing the value inside these game universes that you're building. And I think, a lot of these guys, they might try to get some blockchain hype because it's cool, kind of, because their shareholders like it. But in reality, they don't have the intention to actually execute on it. Now, that's not true for everyone, but even for those who are executing right now, they have a lot to learn, right? Because it's not the same industry. This is a new type of industry where, it's a lot more focused on, I think, in a holistic economy that you have to build, as well as making a fun game, and you have to be less focused on value extraction initially, which is kind of goes against the corporate ethos. of like, okay, we need to make money immediately. But if you're making money later, it's probably better for the long tail of the game, so people can stick around and like build more emotions to your product and connect and IP. So yeah.
Abhishek, we're going to jump to viewer questions, but do you want to jump in on that first? Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, for sure. I think the next generation of the likes of Ubisoft and Riot will be born out of crypto. I think the amount of experience that folks who are building in crypto have, not just in terms of building economies, but sort of bridging all the different infrastructure stacks which is needed to sort of deliver a really quality game in terms of on ramp and off ramp, in terms of rentals, in terms of marketplaces. I think it's not very easy. So like Aleksander mentioned, you can't sort of have your feet on both the boats and try to ride the wave. You just need to be head dive and build in the space. And my bet is on people who are building full time and who sort of moved away from the Web2 sort of gaming industry and are building in the Web3 gaming industry. And increasingly, I think over the next 2-3 years, I think the signals, the early signs of the early success games that will eventually emerge as the new mega gaming studios will very soon emerge. Axie is the early sign, and we are very, very confident that similar games will emerge along with Axie.
Fantastic. So let's go to the viewer questions then. And unfortunately, I don't have a name for the person who asked this, but thank you very much for sending it in and for watching. So, and I'll ask this to you, Aleksander, first. What's your response to NFTs for certain games being too expensive for most non-rich players? Like they mentioned that some NFTs cost 6 to 9 Sol or 5 to 9 Binance Coin, which is very expensive and a big barrier. I'll give you 30 seconds on that one because we're running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not ideal for mainstream adoption if you want as many users as you can, but that might not be the target user. So it's all about the design for the game, really. If it's like, I guess, assuming it's like some step and shoes, that's also driven by the token economy that they have, right? That not that many people are creating new shoes, right? I mean, what happens when the price goes down there? I think that's another question that we have to ask ourselves, because that's really when the people who bought the shoes at a higher price are gonna, feel some panic. So like it's a cycle that, it can push the price up really fast, but once it starts going down, there's almost no bottom.
Abhishek?
Yeah, I think I fully resonate. Firstly, I think most games it's a function of what the game's business model and the go-to-market strategy is. I think most games that are worth their salt have evolved from very, very expensive NFTs to sort of creating a more free-to-play game mechanic first to attract players who really understand the game. It also helps with better matchmaking. There are other benefits to it, but for games with really expensive assets, I think guilds are able to bridge that gap. They're able to buy these assets and sort of lend these assets out. So as a user, if you really want to play a game, you don't really have to go play that game. I think it rather makes sense for you to approach a guild and maybe rent these assets out. I think there are certain cases where there are certain assets which are very rare classes of assets. So I think that question is very relevant from a rarity perspective. So I think primarily for rare asset classes, someone who really wants to level up within the game, I think, and you don't have the funds, maybe lend it out from a guild.
So before we go, very sorry, Aleksander, we're running out of time. Last question, and I need a one-word answer from both of you. I'll ask Abhishek first. Can play and earn games and the industry overtake Nintendo and Sony, do you think? Yes or no?
For sure, yes.
Aleksander?
I mean, yes.
Okay, well, thank you both very much, Abhishek Anand and Aleksander Leonard Larsen. It's been a pleasure talking to you both.